This is your tech news briefing for Thursday, October 13th. I'm Zoe Thomas for the Wall Street Journal. If your job involves responding to crises, you might expect to work nights, weekends, holidays. And that's been the situation for many cybersecurity incident responders. As the number of hacks worldwide has gone up, so has their workload, to a point where, according to a recent survey from IBM, over 2/3 of these workers report being assigned 2 or more incidents to respond to at once. So what does all this mean for an industry that's crucial to protecting modern businesses? And how can companies protect these overstretched workers? Joining us to discuss that is WSJ Pro Cybersecurity reporter James Rundle. Hi, James.
Hi, Zoe. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I wonder if you can start by kind of giving us a sense of the way work has changed for the cybersecurity professionals over, just the last few years.
Yeah, there's been a significant change for every type of cybersecurity professional, but particularly incident responders. Obviously, cyber attacks have grown significantly in the past few years, both as a result of the world becoming more networked, particularly during the pandemic, but also advances in technology on the part of the criminals as well. So really they're finding themselves dealing with a massive influx of attacks against companies of all stripes and all sizes, government agencies, public bodies, and coming from all angles as well, criminals, nation states, and everything in between.
From the people that you spoke with, what kinds of symptoms of overwork or stress did they describe having to deal with? What was their day like?
Overloaded, I think, in a word, from a lot of people I spoke to. A lot of people are working multiple jobs simultaneously, and that's a change from the past few years as well. Previously this was a job where you would go in person to a company when it was attacked, and you'd be on site for days or even weeks at a time, so you could only focus on one client. With the pandemic, that meant everyone obviously was working from home, so for incident responders, it meant they could juggle more jobs at the same time. I spoke to one person who said that he would sign on a Zoom call for one job first thing in the morning, move on to the next one, move on to the next one, then throughout the day just shift between them as necessary. It's been a significant increase in their workload, and that comes with what you would expect from that as well. Symptoms of burnout, a lot of them described. A lot of them feel anxiety. Some say that it's affecting their personal lives. IBM did some research specifically around this area, and they said that around 2/3 of people they surveyed said they'd sought some kind of assistance for their mental well-being recently, just due to the level of work and the stress that's involved in that work as well.
What can the companies do from their perspective to help address this problem? Because it doesn't sound like the incidents of cyber attacks are really going away.
They're not. And companies are aware of this. I have to say, everyone that I spoke to in a senior role for the story was acutely aware of the stress that their employees are under, because they've done it themselves. This isn't a career where you kind of go in at the senior level without working in the trenches. So they've experienced it, and they understand that there are immense pressures on their employees. I spoke to one fellow at Salesforce who said that they give one Friday a month off just for mental well-being for their employees. A lot of them have rules about how many engagements their incident responders can work on back-to-back. At IBM, for instance, no more than 2. And a lot of them talked about just communicating with their staff, checking in with them, making sure that they are taking care of themselves, that they are managing their stress properly. And some things are unavoidable in this job. Cyber attacks generally happen on holidays, they happen on weekends at inconvenient times, and these guys are expected to respond. But for a lot of them, they just said it's a balancing act. And I think from the incident responders' perspective, that IBM researcher mentioned, around well over 3/4 said that they felt supported by their company, which is a positive sign.
That does at least sound really positive. I wonder, though, is this something where the companies that are being attacked should have been putting in more cyber defenses so that we don't see as many incidents needing to be responded to?
100%. And that was a common thread from people I spoke to about this work. They just said they go in to respond to these incidents, and often the work they have to do is complicated by the fact that the company didn't have basic protections in place. And this is a line you keep hearing repeated by the Department of Homeland Security, by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, by anyone who really responds to this, saying that if you do put basic protections in place and you make the effort now, then it will honestly prevent a lot of cyber attacks. And then if it doesn't, then it'll at least reduce the time taken to recover. And it'll also reduce the burden on your incident responders and the cost to you as well. A lot of them said that at their engagements, the first thing they often have to do is an education exercise to explain just what has been going on to executives who don't know about cybersecurity.
So let's talk about this problem then moving forward. Is there a way, apart from beefing up their own cybersecurity, that companies can deal with this to help prevent the burnout from happening in the first place?
I think so. One of the main problems really is a lack of people who are available to do these jobs. The talent shortage in cybersecurity has been pretty well documented by us and others. Depending on what statistics you look at, there are over 800,000 unfilled positions in the US right now, over 2 million worldwide. So a lot of effort has to go into building this pipeline of professionals who can come in, who can staff up these companies. So you're not just relying on a group of people just to do, increasing amounts of work all the time. And there are efforts underway. The White House held a summit earlier this year on ways in which the workforce can be developed. A lot of private companies are putting initiatives in place to partner with universities, with schools, and to train internally to try and get these numbers up and make sure that we have a competitive, stable, and continuing workforce that we can grow.
All right, that was the WSJ cybersecurity reporter, James Rundle. Thanks for breaking this down for us, James.
No problem.
And that's it for today's Tech News Briefing. For more tech stories, check out our website, WSJ.com. I'm Zoe Thomas for the Wall Street Journal. Thanks for listening.